it had always felt like pushing water uphill, like making 12, 14-hour days. Something inside of me telling me you put in all the effort on like understanding the business, the sales, the marketing, but maybe the business isn't performing at the level that I wanted it to be because of like an internal challenge. I guess the main thing I had to learn was to let go of control. The first thing that came to mind was uncomfortable as fuck. Having you by my side, things get a lot lighter. And I just got this feeling of gratitude over me. I'm comfortable to be by myself without the relationship. I'm pretty cool with that.
All right, Joeri, welcome in. I appreciate you for coming on. And yeah, for everyone who's watching, Joeri's just coming on today to share about his 13-week journey doing my program, doing inner work. And we're just here to learn more about Joeri and just how your experience was. And yeah, just ask you all the good stuff today. So welcome in, man.
Let's go, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to reflect back with you and yeah, share my experience. Let's go.
So let's go back to the very beginning where everything started. And could you just share a bit about how we kind of met? Like what was that experience and what brought you into the work? Just so you can transport yourself back there.
Yeah, I've been I've been reflecting back on it. It's been a crazy, what is it, like 3.5 months. But yeah, I was just thinking back like how we met. We met in Canada, like physically at an event of a similar business coach that we had. And like at that time, I was just full on into the business. Like all my chips were on the business, and like this is what I was working on. This is what I was investing in. This is what I'm putting all my time and effort in. And yeah, I think we just briefly spoke. We connected, and I was just interested in like what it was that you were doing. I think you introduced yourself as like a spiritual coach or like energy coach. We spoke a little bit about it. Like I'd worked with some previous coaches before, but like always curious to like understand what it is that you did. I don't think we connected much further at the event, but something inside of me was telling me like, hey, I'm pushing and grinding the business, all like very external stuff, if that makes sense. And for some reason, it felt very forceful. Like it felt very like pushy and like it wasn't showing a lot of returns already for a long time. So there was something inside of me telling me like, hey man, you put in all the effort on like understanding the business, the sales, the marketing, but maybe the business isn't performing at the level that I wanted it to be because of like an internal challenge, not necessarily like understanding marketing better. So it was more of like an intuitive feeling that I reached out to you again and it's like, hey, like can you tell me a little bit more? And mainly with the purpose of making the business grow better and faster. Which yeah, that was my thinking. Like if external doesn't work, then maybe I need to go internal and sort some stuff out with myself basically. So that's how we got in touch. And I think it was also the evening in Canada when there were a few other of your clients, and I remember speaking to Matthias, who is he just completed the program. He's extremely positive about the work, the transformation, and I think he said something like even if it would have cost like $1 million, I would have still done it. Like it's life changing. I was like, okay, fuck. Let's take the jump. Let's fucking go. Let's do it. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I trust this guy. Let's see how the journey will unfold.
Yeah, beautiful. And I appreciate you for trusting me. Um, yeah, so now we're here, 3.5 months later. Could you just share what was really just the biggest transformation for you? Like just the real goal everyone wants to know. What's the one big takeaway that just immediately hits you of whether it's a feeling, something you learn, just something that you know is different in your reality.
I guess it's hard to like point out one thing,
For sure.
but um, like it's been a lot. The last 3.5 months have been very dynamic. I guess if I would try to put it in a couple of words, life feels a lot lighter. Yesterday I was just sitting at the beach watching the sunset, eating a paella, and I just got this feeling of gratitude over me. And I had that before, but I lost that for a while. Just gratitude for life. And that was deep. Like I'm grateful for that feeling again. I was like, oh, my life feels good and light. And I guess the main thing I had to learn was to let go of control. Same as like the business wanting to control and wanting to force and just trusting, surrendering, and letting go more. I think those are like the main words that come to mind if I look at the before and after. Trusting, letting go, surrendering, and just taking life a little easier, a little lighter instead of the forceful energy, the pressure that I put on myself.
Yeah, that really is the two paths, right? So before, right, you kind of described initially when you talk, you said you felt like you're pushing water uphill. Um, and it just felt everything
Exactly.
felt forceful, hard, difficult, and you saw in the external world it wasn't quite adding up for certain things. In the path that we take, it's one of surrender, which the ego sounds terrible. We're gonna let go, just let things happen. But could you talk a little bit about just that part of the journey? What's it like going from forcing, kind of hustling, and that kind of energy, controlling to that energy, both just the process and what you kind of how do you experience it? Like what's it like to switch to that path?
Yeah, I think that's been one of the biggest journeys, one that I'm still on and learning. Like I throughout experiences from the past, I kind of created this identity as a fighter for myself in multiple ways, with business, with martial arts. Like I fight, I fucking push through. And at one point, it did feel like pushing water uphill. It felt like I was fighting the universe. And my ego maybe was a little bit too big to like give in. It was like, like I'm gonna prove the universe wrong, right? So um, it has brought me a lot with that energy as well. The controlling, fighting energy has brought me, I would say, like a lot of good things. But also, like I go through this cycle where I push too hard and I reach a burnout. I've been there a couple of times where like I've been pushing too hard, and I think a lot of it comes from control for me, right? I find safety, and like we dove into this during the sessions as well. At least my mind tells me that I find safety within control. If I can control the situation, if I have a plan, like I can control, so I am safe, which obviously is an illusion as well. So it's just really holding on to that. And I think the biggest part of the journey was to be able to let go and to surrender. So when you ask me like how was that, the first thing that came to mind was uncomfortable as fuck, because it is like for me it is uncomfortable to trust and to let go and to know that there's a different path that I maybe don't see or cannot control. But by practicing that and having you by my side of like going through that process of surrendering and letting go, yeah, things get a lot lighter and life becomes more fun. Also, the not knowing part becomes fun, and yeah, that lighter part I think was what I was really missing. Like I know I lost that along the way. The fun part in life, the joyful, the playfulness. It was just the serious money making, pushing, and yeah, yeah, it's still uncomfortable sometimes to let go and to surrender and to trust. But at the same time, it does create a lot more lighter energy, flowing energy, and yeah, just also the excitement of life of seeing what it's going to bring and seeing what's going to come on your path, which now has brought me to Valencia and eating paella and watching sunset at the beach. So yeah.
Yeah, really well said. Would you mind sharing a little bit about actually what you were doing in the last 3 years? Because it's very relevant to, the work we're talking about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my own business about 3 years ago. I had worked in corporate marketing for about 10 years, and I've been helped previously also like coaches like yourself. So I started my business 3 years ago with the idea to help people like you who do amazing, amazing work to help them with marketing and sales. So I started that 3 years ago, and I tried different what I call that different angles of like the same business coaching, and it's been good but also very challenging. And I tried different offers, and it had always felt like, as I said, like pushing water uphill. Like it just required a whole lot of energy, waking up 5 in the morning, making 12 14 hour days, and with little, I would say, yeah, little return, like not the amount of success that I was hoping. And previously before that, things were flowing. So that's what I had been doing for like 3 years: the business coaching, running a business. I had team members, like I tried all sorts of different things, but again, it always felt forceful. And yeah, throughout the program, even though I started working with you with the intent to make the business grow or to like solve internal things to make the business grow faster, I think quite quickly in the beginning of the program, I just realized like it's just not working. Like it's this is probably then not for me. That's what I meant with maybe fighting the universe. There were a lot of signals that it just wasn't meant to be. Maybe because the industry, maybe because of whatever my skill set doesn't really matter. That's also something I had to let go of. So that's what I decided to do, is just to end and quit the business, let go of my team members, and kind of also sit in the uncomfortableness of not knowing what's going to come next. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the journey, right? Is we're going within, we're letting, a lot of old traumas, beliefs, heavy energies go. But that also requires, letting go of things on the outside, right? And we'll talk about that and people and relationships. And we'll get to that soon. But I do want to ask you because I brought this up because you're a king within the PD realm, right? Personal development, and you've coached coaches. I know you've invested a lot in yourself. You've done all sorts of things. Would you mind talking a little bit about like before you came to work with me? Just like all of the things you did, and how does this work differ than all the previous things that you had tried?
Hmm. Previous things in terms of like personal development or business or both?
I mean, I know you've done plant medicines. I know you've done men's groups. I know you've read all of the stuff. You've done a lot. So yeah.
Correct. Right, right. Um, yeah. So in terms of like if we don't want to talk about personal development, yeah, I think I just really started my journey about 3 years ago. Like before that, I read a lot of books, including like the book that is like your or our Holy Bible by now, right? I read the book before, The Letting Go, and it explains it nicely. But after I read the book the first time, because I read it again during our program, it's just theory. Like you can, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I can explain in the book, like, oh, guys, like this is how emotions work, but actually putting it into practice consistently. Um, and that's, I think, the main thing that I took away from the collaboration with you in the program. It's um, a few fundamental but very impactful techniques that you put into practice repetitively. And I think that's the difference. You can do breathwork once and say like, oh, I know how breathwork works, or meditate a little, or and I'll speak for myself because that's the things that I did, right? Like I would do occasional breathwork, I would meditate occasionally, all like really good tools, I would say as well. But the consistency of it, and that's also what you helped me. Like every time there was no new surprise, like, okay, let's just go back to this and keep implementing. And every time we did get a little deeper, and I did feel lighter. And I guess it's just the yeah, working with the fundamental tools and keep putting them into practice so that actually becomes like the habit that you know in every situation. Also outside of the program, now that we have ended, I still put our tools into practice every single morning. And even when I'm like last weekend, I was out and like some feelings came up. I'm like, okay, now I know what to do. I know how to like let go. So it's more like teaching um fundamental life skills that you can keep using because it's so ingrained now into my system rather than having read a book or having joined one or two breathwork sessions once or twice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all really about, learning to use the tools, right? And implementing them in your life. Um, I want to talk about relationships for a bit, right? Because we kind of started out with, business being kind of the entry angle, but then yeah, you let it go. And you did that pretty quickly after you started doing the inner work and started becoming more aligned with yourself and who you wanted to be, and realizing that yeah, certain things in your life weren't uh in vibration with who you're becoming. Can you talk a little bit, we spent a lot of time really going to the essence of this work, right? Is we're going deep, really the core traumas, the core things that hold us back. And abandonment is one of the big words, right? That behind the scenes, we get a lot into letting go of attachments, learning to let go of anything in the outside world, except, everything that any attachments to the outside world. Can you talk a little bit about just like the work in relation to, yeah, your relationships and, yeah, the work that we did around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the core element that we worked on in most of the sessions. And yeah, I'm happy to share. Like, I was just thinking back, like I journal quite a bit, and if I read back to my journals of like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would say life is pretty sweet, but there's always been two topics that are the main things on my mind. That was the business. We spoke a little bit about that, and it was also my breakup with my ex-girlfriend who I've been together with for like 7 years. And those have always been two of like the kind of like say like applications on your phone which drain a lot of energy. Like it's kind of there. It's kind of like the stuff I don't want to look at. And yeah, crazy enough, like the business was a decision I made quite quickly, which was hard to let go because a lot had to do with the identity, I guess, of me, the identity of a successful business owner and wanting to prove to myself that I could. I had to let go of that. And I mean, I do like the spiritual part. I wouldn't say like I see synchronicities and everything, but the interesting part was that as soon as we joined the program, I think a day later, my ex, who I hadn't spoken to in about a year and a half, 2 years, magically appeared in my life again. And there was I guess it's very hard to describe, but that was is a very sensitive topic for me with a lot of suppressed energy, things I tried to work through using the tools that we just mentioned, like the plant medicine, the breath work. But there still was a lot of pain, grief, abandonment there. And yeah, she appeared in my life, and I had the opportunity to resolve and go through a lot of those things together with your support, which I'm very grateful for. Just to just I guess to heal whatever had to be still healed. And as you said, things come down a lot to abandonment and being alone. And I think that was a big fear for me. Like if I let go of the business, I asked you like medicine, like what the fuck do I do with all my free time, right? Like what do I do? I would just be scared to like lay on the couch and be bored and feel completely lonely um and yeah, also I guess with her, I also always felt that, or my nervous system always felt that connection in the moments that I did feel lonely. So having to let go of that as well, and like, yeah, I went through a lot in that sense of like that relationship that I still have with her in those 3 months, learning to let go and also understanding if emotions come up in terms of grief or guilt or jealousy, like how to deal with that and how just I don't know. I feel like a lot of us don't really know how to deal with emotions, and at least now I know. Even though they were very very painful at points, like they've been very challenging. At least I know I was doing the right thing, right? You were there to say like, yeah, no, this is the work that you need to be doing. Where probably if I didn't have that, I wouldn't know what to do. I would choose different avenues. And the funny thing is, like, I think the day after we ended our program, like the relationship, and she also disappeared out of my life. This is still kind of like mind blowing to me. It felt like this was really needed to find certain closure and to be okay with being by myself. Also now in a new city, without a job, without the identity, without having an actual house that I like can call my own. Like the whole identity is kind of away, but I'm still comfortable to be by myself without the relationship, without the girlfriend, without the job, and I'm pretty cool with that. And before that, I think that was the biggest fear. Like, who am I if I don't have someone to fall back on, or a business, or to keep myself busy? And yeah, I'm really comfortable being by myself and doing not much, learning Spanish and enjoying life.
I think one of the biggest transformations I've seen in you, and I've told you this, right, is rather than being caught up in the trauma and attachments, is I just see you being comfortable being. I remember when
Mm,
you first quit the work, people would ask you what you're doing, and you basically just said, "I'm retired," and it pissed them off, right? Just the idea that your only goal, so to say, job was just to be and to allow yourself just to be you without having to have an identity or own up to something or I don't know, fit into other people's world. And it's just being able to see you being just comfortable doing your own thing on your own time. You told me you're taking Spanish classes now, but without any of that outside trying to prove things or into spin in other people's worlds, but just being grounded in who you are and feeling light in that I can see and just self-expressive and just comfortable. But yeah,
right. That yeah, that is. I still say that. Like, if people ask me what do you do, it's like I'm retired, and people always like they don't know how to react. They're like, what? So what do you do? It's like, oh, I don't do anything at the moment. But like, it's hard for people to comprehend. It's right. We need to be busy. We spoke about this in one of the group sessions. I think that we need to be. We need to be busy. We need to be building. We need to be productive. We need to have an identity. We need to make money. We need to like in the end we don't need to do anything, right? Like, and this is also part of the process now. Like, I will be retired for the rest of my life, but I know that this is a good period for me to re-energize. And I'm just, instead of like controlling and trying to force the next thing, I'm really confident that something will come on my path which is more aligned, and where my capabilities, my energy, my drive, which I do have, will also translate into more success rather than me trying to force something out of nothing. So yeah, that's all been part of the journey, which has been for me like it feels like a 180, but it gives me a lot more peace of mind. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, you're in a transition period right now, right? You're kind of waiting to do the next thing, seeing what calls you. But how do you like, you're not going to be using the same energies, the same patterns that you built the business with previously because you're a different person. You're operating a new level of consciousness, a new paradigm, whole different level of energy. How do you foresee you like when this business comes operating, let's say differently than you would have been before? Like I know you're not there yet, but
Mm.
you can sense it.
Right. Yeah, good question. I think like for me, it's always been like all or nothing. So I do know the tools and as I said, like I have been to breath work and meditation, other sessions, and um, when I started the business about 3 years ago, I think also right after the breakup, I just opened my laptop, didn't think about it, and just kept working and just like really drained that battery and kept draining it. And even though I know that like I'm not built to work 14 hours a day, like some people are great at it. I know I burn out. I will still push through because of like that fighter energy. So if something now, and I guess also if you go on like a deeper layer, that's also probably why I was still craving that connection with my ex, which was like giving a sort of sense of safety. And the big realization is what you gave me, like pretty, when you think about it, pretty weird if you're like seeking safety in other people, which is probably the most unsafe thing that you can do. So what I learned is like to give that safety to myself, to meditate every morning, to sleep in, to eat well, to do the things that I enjoy. So to come to your question, like if I would start a new business or a new project, which I'm sure will come, like it needs to be more balanced out. I need to give that safety, that love, that comfort to myself first, um, in balance with creating that business. And that's the most important because if I fully focus on the business, I'm going to be putting that safety or that connection or the love outside of me and let that be dependent on other people. It's like, I think you said that's where you give your power away. And I found that an interesting one. So I'm giving my power away to other people because I'm seeking that from them. So yeah, it will be much more balanced and it will be much more something that um I guess comes to my path rather than to force a new project just because I feel like I have to be productive.
Yeah. A lot of people watching this, they're probably, if they're like me or you, right? That's like they've kind of done the rigmarole with all these healing modalities, right? And the plant medicines, yoga, meditation, whatever. How could you both like just how could you just describe this work to people who have not quite done it? Like, what is it that we're actually doing? And you just kind of get into like a bit of the details, behind the scenes, the sessions. Like, what does it actually
Right.
look like if you could describe it to them?
Right. Good question. 'Cause I was wondering the same before we started. I think we had a chat about it, and I guess it's a little less tangible in terms of like what do you do. Like for me, it was like okay, I help people with advertisement, then we do this and this. It's very tangible. Um, I guess to the deepest core of like what you teach, how you help people, it's energy work, which I like by now I now kind of know what to think about it, but before it was still vague. So what is energy work? So the way I would explain it to people, it's just a fundamental understanding of emotions, right? And energy, emotions are energy in motion. It's just really just energy in your body. And what you teach, what you help with, is just to identify those emotions, right? So what is it that I'm feeling either now or like what are the stored emotions, stored energy, which is just, I mean, scientifically proven that it's still in your body. Like what is it you're still holding on to? Actually being able to, well, the first step for me was like the map of consciousness, right? The different types of emotions that actually exist and the different vibrations. That already was insightful for me to understand what are the different emotions that we're actually feeling. What's the difference between anger and grief, right? And just that understanding in combination with identifying them in your body and being able to sit with them and process emotions just so that they get released from the body. There's different techniques that you teach, which are all powerful, and some go more into like the emotions, some more go into like the mental programming. And yeah, it's just a matter of like letting those go. It's almost like a cleansing mechanism, I would feel like we can hold on to so many stored emotions, a lot of negative emotions as well. And maybe being convinced that we need to have those. And what I realized is well, like we don't need to have any negative emotions. It doesn't bring anything, even though the mind might tell you that it does bring any benefits. It doesn't, right? And it just makes life a lot heavier and more, I don't know, more gray or so. So yeah, it's a lot about releasing energy, understanding how emotions work, which basically is a fundamental life skill I think everyone should have. And practicing to let that go, to just increase your happiness level and increase like how you perceive life. Yeah.
Yeah, really well explained. A lot of work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like that's kind of my category, and you've spent many years, helping other business owners and coaches and entrepreneurs. How could you describe maybe the benefits or, yeah, to other entrepreneurs that are so stuck in the material world, which matters, right? The ads, the marketing, sales, really just what the key benefits are to actually going with it and doing work like this? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think specifically entrepreneurs would benefit the most from this work because being an entrepreneur, it's a very special profession, I would say. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of responsibilities. You're like on the go 24/7, right? Your business is almost like an identity to yourself, at least if I can speak for myself, right? So I think it's your own precious project that you create, and most people I work with, like it's because we want to help people and want to improve the world. So it's very closely related, I guess, to your identity, which at the same time also makes that, I guess, the most challenging job in the world because it's so correlated with the way you think, the way you feel, and also where motivation comes from, rather than your 9 to 5 job, you just close your laptop. So in terms of the benefits, I think if the more you understand yourself better, the more you're able to build a business and help people and serve people that's also aligned with you. And I can only speak for myself, but I guess it just would go for a lot of other entrepreneurs as well. It's like what's the real motivation, the real drive behind things? I think Matthias, right, the one I mentioned in the beginning, also spoke about this in the interview with you. Like, what does it come from? Is it really what you want? Um, is that really in alignment with you, or is it because like you've been influenced by Instagram, social media, as we all are? So I guess the more you do the work, the closer you get to yourself, and the less polluted your mind is, and I guess also the more resilient you are to the pressure of building your own business, the more able to be like let go of a client who's not paying or a bad review or all the shitty things we as entrepreneurs also deal with, or having to make a choice like the business is no longer working, which was my choice. It doesn't necessarily need to be out, of course, the outcome of anything, but just being able to let go and perceive things lighter and as lessons. Yeah, I think the work that you do is most impactful for entrepreneurs because of all the balls that they're juggling and all the responsibilities that they have.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I agree. A lot of the people I work with too, just by the nature of people who come to me, I work with everybody, but I work with a lot of men. And like each week, we had our, the Waking Entrepreneurs, which is a group of, about a dozen guys to get together and do this work together. What could you say about doing this work and how you've seen it just kind of impact yourself just as a man, just in that energy?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question as well. And I think it comes back to the phrase has really stuck with me. Like, where am I giving my power away? And that's something that I learned. And I think I've been giving my power away a lot to women, like seeking safety, seeking love in women. And I think I've been doing that, I don't know, for most part of my adult life, just wanting something, needing something. But if I would need something from someone else, right, it per definition means that I don't have it. So there's scarcity. And the thing that you taught me was like to give that first to yourself, right? How if I'm craving attention or love or safety, like besides looking for that in the connection with women or the feminine, whatever type of relationship that might be, how can I get that to myself first? And I think that's been a big transformation, and that makes it a whole lot less needy, a lot less scarce, and it's actually fun to be with myself as well. Like, no, pulled to read a book, I'm pulled to light a candle and to make it a little bit more feminine energy for myself, right? And it's great if someone else would join in that as well, but it's less needy, so less dependent, I guess, on the feminine energy to kind of bring that relief and that softness.
Yeah, I love these. It's the greatest gift to just be with yourself. And there's so many people, right? Like everybody, like they just can't be with themselves. Can't be at dinner by themselves. They're always on the phone. They're always checking this. And very, very few people today can just honestly sit comfortably with themselves and just be there with themselves. And I think that's one of the biggest. It sounds so subtle. It sounds so easy, but it really isn't. And that's probably one of the greatest things I've seen you be able to do is just comfortably rest in your own presence. And that's that presence that your true self, which is powerful, and not being able to give that attention, that energy to the phones, to women, to whoever, to bad clients, like you said. But yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's been massive. Like I came to Valencia 6 weeks ago, and man, those have been like I think two of the like a few of the most intense days. Like everything just came together, moving and like conversations with my ex, which wasn't flowing. And man, those were like dark days. But like fast forward 6 months, 6 weeks later, and I'm like, yeah, I've been to a city that I've never been to before. I've created my own foundation. I'm good with myself, and that just also gives me the confidence. Like I can go and pack my shit tomorrow and go to Paraguay and be good as well, right? So it actually gives a lot of freedom now that I think about it. Like, yeah, I'm good. Like I manage myself here in Valencia, can pack up my stuff tomorrow, go somewhere else and be with myself because I got myself covered, right? Yeah, that gives a lot of peace of mind and freedom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate you for coming on. I only got a few more questions for you. But I would like to ask is just what is some just advice? Because the people who are watching this, they're most likely in the business realm, they're doing their own thing. Maybe they're feeling stuck. But what kind of advice could you just give them? They're looking on the outside about thinking, should I do this work? What would you just tell them?
Yeah, that's a good question. As I look at it from my own perspective, like I was in there as well. Like, and for everyone who's listening, maybe business is going well, or maybe like indeed you're stuck at a certain level, or you have doubts, which I can really relate to, like as an entrepreneur. And I was always trying to, as I explained at the beginning, try to look at things from the outside. And I've invested tons of money and like endless hours of training of figuring out the marketing, figuring out the sales, and getting better at sales conversations, which still is a very fundamental element of being an entrepreneur. I mean, don't get me wrong. But there's a big other element, specifically if you're like a solopreneur running like a team or managing or leading, like everything eventually is a reflection in your business and the results and how nicely things flow from the inside, right? And the way we think, and the way the mind is conditioned. And I was even unaware about how my mind was conditioned because it's so ingrained in the program. So honestly, like if you're stuck or even if things are flowing, and it doesn't really matter. Like it can never be a wrong investment or a wrong time spent because dude, we should get this in fucking like kindergarten, right? Of like how this stuff works. It's so fundamental. Like we learn language and we learn math and we learn economy, but like the stuff that you work with, which I don't even know if it's really spiritual. Like it's just a fundamental understanding about how our body works, how energy works, how emotions work. It will always bring benefits because in your business, your personal life. So yeah, that's the advice what I would have. Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Well, thank you, Yuri. I just want to give you one last, just word to speak. Is there anything, any last advice, thing you would want to say to the people watching? Just anything, even to the people who are already doing the work.
Mm. Um, yeah. Well, first off, I would say like a thank you to you because it's been the last 3 months have been. I felt like we went. I told you this. Like we went to war together, and like I asked for like something to really like work through, and like so big thank you to you, man, for being in my corner and supporting me in that. And yeah, I think specifically if you're like in the position that I was 3 months ago, like if you're stuck, I really didn't know a way out. Like, dude, you're the best person to have in your corner to do the work. You've also always been available. I was always able to like text you. Yeah, you just really were in the war, in the ring, in my corner next to me when I was like uh working through everything that the universe had put on my path. So yeah, that's the last advice or well, thank you or gratitude that I would want to give.
Appreciate it, man. For those who are watching, Yuri's an actual fighter. He's won competitions, and yeah, so he actually knows what it means to fight, and yeah, to be in war, and yeah, and we're going within ourselves, right? And we're gonna be facing stuff that is challenging, right? But yeah, being able to work through it and yeah, free yourself by letting go. Anyway, Yuri, this is just one stop of the journey. I'd love to have you on soon. See how things play out for you the next few months. You continue to work, and yeah, always there for you, man. Always in your corner. I know you're likewise for me. So, hey, man, I appreciate you for coming on, sharing your experience, and yeah, we'll see you soon.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Bye.